Hello there, welcome to my channel. I am Mrs Oifo Osifuye. I was a former teacher, a retired vice principal, stroke director of education with the Lagos State Ministry of Education, a seasoned examiner of WAEC, NECO and NABTEB of many years, and still counting. In this video, I will take you through how questions are set in English language, WAEC. Like we all know, English language is one of the compulsory subjects for students who want to gain admission to higher institutions of learning. And one of the major reasons why this video is made. Now straight to the reason for this video. English language has 3 papers, namely paper 1, paper 2, and paper 3. Paper 1 is the Lexis and Structure, which consists of 80 objective questions. Paper 2 is the essay questions. This consists of 5 essay topics. It also has a comprehension passage and a summary passage. While paper 3 is the test of orals, which has 60 objective questions. We are now going to be looking at paper 1, which is the Lexis and Structure. Let's look at the background of paper 1. 80 objective questions are set to test candidates' real understanding of the lexical terms, that is, relating to words or vocabulary of a language rather than dictionary meaning, which is the direct meaning of a word. Now, for your information, these 80 objective questions are compulsory and they have to be answered within 60 minutes, 1 hour, and it carries 40 marks. For candidates to do well in this paper, they must note the following. Speed and accuracy is very essential. Too much time should not be spent on a question. The best option should be picked from giving options A to D. All available options should be checked carefully before arriving at the correct option, as some options can be very deceitful because some of them are fair, some options are good, some are likely, and some are reasonable. Lexis and Structure objective questions, question paper 1, is divided into 6 different sections, and each section has its own instruction. And these instructions must be followed to the letter to be able to do well and pass the Lexis and Structure paper. Now, section 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 consist of 10 questions each, while section 5 consists of 30 questions, bringing the total of 80 questions for paper 1. Having discussed the background, we will now look at 2 examples each for each section from WAEC past question. And for these examples, we are using the WAEC past question for 2016. Like I said earlier on, each section has its own instruction. So we are starting with section 1. We are going to read the question, the instruction. Listen attentively. In each of the following sentences, there is one underlined word and one gap. From the list of words lettered A to E, choose the word that is most nearly opposite in meaning to the underlined word. The one that is most nearly opposite in meaning to the underlined word, and that will at the same time correctly fill the gap in the sentence. You must be very, very careful when you're answering questions. The instructions are very, very important. Once you miss the instruction, you are going to give wrong answers, and that will lead to failure. Now, the first example we have there is that road, which used to be wide, now appears dash because of the new drainage. That road, which used to be wide, now appears dash because of the new drainage. The word underlined in this sentence is wide. Wide is the word that is underlined. And because the instruction says we should look for the word that is most nearly opposite in meaning to the underlined word, and that which can be used to at the same time correctly fill the gap in the sentence, we are now going to look at the options. We have the following options. Option A, winding. Option B, limited. Option C, narrow. Option D, reduced. Again, option A, winding. Option B, limited. Option C, narrow. Option D, reduced. So from these options we have read out now, which option do you think will be the one that is nearly opposite in meaning to the underlined word wide, and that will best fill in the gap? The correct option will be narrow, which is option C. So we'll now put that narrow there and read the sentence again. That road, which used to be wide, now appears narrow because of the new drainage. That road, which used to be wide, now appears narrow because of the new drainage. So narrow is nearly opposite of wide in that particular sentence. Now the second example we have is, in the past, any person who angered the gods was made to dash them. In the past, any person who angered the gods was made to dash them. We have our options. Option A, appease. Option B, reward. Option C, settle. Option D, beg. Again, option A, appease. Option B, reward. Option C, settle. Option D, beg. Now, like we did in the first sentence, what do you think will be the correct answer? From the options we have here, the correct answer is appease, because the word that is underlined in that sentence is angered. So appease is the word that is nearly opposite in meaning to the word angered, which is underlined in this sentence. And so the sentence will now read, in the past, any person who angered the gods was made to appease them. In the past, any person who angered the gods was made to appease them. So that is using words that are speaking words that are most nearly opposite in meaning to underline words in given sentences for section 1. Having looked at section 1, we are now going to look at section 2. Like I told you earlier on, section 2 has its own instruction too, and the instruction reads, from the words lettered A to D, choose the word that best completes each of the following sentences. From the words lettered A to D, choose the word that best completes each of the following sentences. Now note that the instruction we have here is different from the one we have in section A. And so you are going to always make sure you look at the instructions before you begin to answer your question for a pass. Now we have our example. The first example we have there is, don't tell me you are dash enough to believe his lies. Don't tell me you are dash enough to believe his lies. We have the following options. A, credible. B, childish. C, modest. D, naive. Again, A, credible. B, childish. C, modest. D, naive. So what do you think would be the correct option that will best complete the sentence we have just read? From the sentence we have just read, the option that best completes it is naive. The sentence will now read, don't tell me you are naive enough to believe his lies. Don't tell me you are naive enough to believe his lies. For the second example, for section 2, where we are looking for words that best complete the given sentences, the members of parliament labelled and dash to the constitution. The members of parliament labelled and dash to the constitution. The options we have there are A, adjustment. B, amendment. C, enactment. D, annulment. Again, A, adjustment. B, amendment. C, enactment. D, annulment. So what do you think will be the correct answer from the options that we have just read? The correct option is B, amendment. The sentence will now read, the members of parliament tabled an amendment to the constitution. The members of parliament tabled an amendment to the constitution. We have looked at section 2 and used 2 examples. Now we are going to go to section 3. In section 3, we also have a different instruction. And the instruction that says, after each of the following sentences, a list of possible interpretations is given. A list of possible interpretations is given. Choose the interpretation that is most appropriate for each sentence. Choose the interpretation that is most appropriate. That is most appropriate. That means from all interpretations given to us, they are all appropriate, but we want the one that is most appropriate to the given for each sentence. Now, the first example we have there is, my school carried the day in the debate. That is the sentence we are given. My school carried the day in the debate. This means that my school, option A, missed the debate. Option B, this means that my school won the debate. Option C, this means that my school chose the date for the debate. Option D, this means that my school had very good points. Again, option A, it means that my school missed the debate. Option B, this means that my school won the debate. Option C, it means that my school chose the date for the debate, while option D means that my school had very good points. Now, note what we are looking at in this particular section. We are looking at the interpretation that is most appropriate for the given sentence. And the given sentence is, my school carried the day in the debate. So what do you think would be the correct option? The correct interpretation for this particular sentence. The correct interpretation of this particular sentence is option B. My school won the debate. So when they say my school carried the day in the debate, it means that my school won the debate. That is the correct answer to that question. The next example reads, We covered much ground at the conference yesterday. That is the sentence we are looking at. But we are now going to pick the correct interpretation for that particular sentence. This means that option A, discussed some issues. Option B, treated many issues. Option C, used a lot of space. Option D, argued about many things. Again, option A, discussed some issues. Option B, treated many issues. Option C, used a lot of space. Option D, argued about many things. Now, from the options we are given, the correct option that gives the right interpretation for the sentence "we covered much ground at the conference" is option B, which is treated many issues. It means that the school treated they treated many issues. That's the correct option that interprets "we covered so much ground at the conference yesterday." So that is for section 3. Now, from the 3 sections we have looked at, you realize that each of these 3 sections have their own different instructions. Each of them have their different instructions. So those instructions must be followed to the letter to make it easy for you to pick the right options before you answer any question. Now let's go to section 4. For section 4, the instruction reads: from the words lettered A to D below each of the following sentences, choose the word or group of words that is nearest in meaning to the underlined word. From the words lettered A to D, from the words lettered A to D below each of the following sentences, choose the word or group of words that is nearest in meaning to the underlined word as it is used in the. If you look at the instruction here, it's almost the same thing as the instruction in section 1 that we looked at earlier on. But here, the instruction says choose the word or group of words. It depends on the examiners. They can decide to use words or group of words as options. But even though it's almost the same like section 1. Now we are going to look at the 2 examples again here. The first example is most people abhor nagging. Most people abhor nagging. The underlined word in that sentence is abhor. And now we are supposed to pick an option that is nearest in meaning to the underlined word, which is abhor. Examples of the options are A, scorn; B, despise; C, reject; D, slight. A, scorn; B, despise; C, reject; and D, slight. From the options that we have, going through the options that we have, we realize that the word that is nearest in meaning to the underlined word abhor is despise, which is option B, despise. The sentence will now read: most people despise nagging. Most people despise nagging. And then for this second example, I really hope Beatrice would be kind enough to let us stay the night. I really hope Beatrice would be kind enough to let us stay the night. The underlined word in that sentence is kind. The options we have are generous; B, polite; C, gracious; D, gentle. Again, A, generous; B, polite; C, gracious; D, gentle. And from those options, when we look at the question, the word, we are looking for the word that is nearest in meaning to the underlined word, and the underlined word in that sentence is kind. So the word that is most nearest in meaning to kind in the options given is what? Generous. The question we now read: I really hope Beatrice would be generous enough to let us stay the night. I really hope Beatrice would be generous enough to let us stay the night. Gracious has been used to replace kind, because from the options, gracious is nearest in meaning to kind. That is for section 4. Always remember that each section has their own instruction. Now we are going to move to section 5. In section 5, we have a different instruction as usual. And the instruction here reads: from the words or group of words lettered A to D, choose the word or group of words that best completes each of the following sentences. From the words or group of words lettered A to D, choose the word or group of words that best completes each of the following sentences. If you notice, you will realize that the instruction we have in section 5 is almost the same as the instruction we have in section 2. In section 2, it says choose the word that best completes each of the following. But in section 5, it says choose the word that best choose the word or group of words. So the options can be one word or a group of words as options. Now let's look at the examples that we are going to use. Example 1: you like ice cream dash, there's a question mark, so you'll be sure that the answers are going to be question like. You like ice cream dash. The options that we have here are A, didn't you? B, did you? C, isn't it? D, don't you? Again, A, didn't you? B, did you? C, isn't it? D, don't you? Now if you look at these options, the correct one that best completes the sentence is option D, which is don't you. The question will now read: you like ice cream, don't you? You can see that there is a question mark there. That question mark makes us realize that that is a question. You like ice cream, don't you? Now you will now see that in this particular question, a group of words is used to complete the sentence. A group of words, not one word. Now for the next example: I didn't tell my parents about the trip because they will be dashed themselves with worry. I didn't tell my parents about the trip because they will be dashed themselves with worry. The options we have here are A, at, B, upon, C, within, D, beside. Again, A, at, B, upon, C, within, D, beside. Now if we look at those options, we realize that the options are one word, unlike the first example where we have the options as more than one word, because the instruction there says choose the word or group of words that best completes. So the first example we looked at was a group of words as options, and then the second one is just one word. So the correct answer to that question is beside. I didn't tell my parents about the trip because they will be beside themselves with worry. I didn't tell my parents about the trip because they will be beside themselves with worry. That is section 5. Now, having looked at section 5, we are now going to look at section 6. Section 6 is a different ball game from all other sections, because in section 6 we are given a passage with different gaps that we are going to fill, and we are going to pick options from given options to fill the blank spaces. Now, before we go into answering section, looking at examples of section 6, we have to also realize that here students are to master some vocabulary of different things. While in school, you were taught vocabularies vocabulary of agriculture, of education, of medicine, of law, so many of them. And so for this particular year, this passage is talking about going to deal with vocabulary on medicine. So if you are not familiar with the vocabulary of medicine, you find yourself giving the wrong answers. But if you have mastered those vocabularies, just like you were taught in school, it will be easy for you to pick out the correct options from the given option that you have. So now let's look at the instruction. The instruction says, in the following passage, the numbered gaps indicate missing words. Against each number in the list below the passage, 4 options are given in columns lettered A to D. Choose the word that is most suitable to fill the numbered gaps in the passage. Choose the word from the options given that is most suitable to fill the numbered gaps in the passage. When I started this video, I made you realize that some options are real, some are reliable. But what you are looking for in Lexis and Structure is the option that is best. You must choose the best option to fill in your blanks. And so the passage reads, the young doctor looked sprightly in his white coat, displaying his dash very conspicuously on his neck. Displaying his dash very conspicuously on his neck. Now, if you look at the options that we have for that particular question, you realize that we have A, chain, B, badge, C, stethoscope, D, watch. A, chain, B, badge, C, stethoscope, and D, watch. The first sentence there says the young doctor. A doctor does not display a chain on his neck. What does the doctor display? From the option that we have, a doctor displays what? A stethoscope. So the correct answer to that particular question, to fill that gap, is what? Stethoscope. So displaying his stethoscope very conspicuously on his neck, he walked through the dash, greeting each of the dash who greeted him in return. He walked through the dash, greeting each of the dash who greeted him in return. For the next one, which is 72, the next dash, we have options like A, aisle, B, office, C, room, D, word. A, aisle, B, office, C, room, D, word. So the correct option there is word. He walked through the word. In the hospital, you have words. He walked through the words, greeting each of the dash who greeted him. The options we have for that, for 73, is patients, A, B, clients, D, invalids, and D, customers. So the correct option there is patients, because it's patients you have in the world in the hospital. Then suddenly his eyes caught a woman on a nearby dash. Then suddenly his eyes caught a woman on a nearby dash. Now let's go to the options. A, stretcher, B, bed, C, wheelchair, D, bench. A, stretcher, B, bed, C, wheelchair, D, bench. Now from what we have read so far, what should be the correct option, the correct answer to that particular gap? It is bed. It is yes, it is bed. Then suddenly his eye caught a woman on a nearby bed. Remember that the doctor is in the ward, and in the ward you have patients who lie on their beds. He went closer, held her hand, feeling for her dash, and he carried out some other minor dash. He held her hand. He went closer, held her hand, feeling for her dash, and he carried out some other minor dash. Now for 75, we have A, breathing, C, B, pulse, C, response, D, pressure. A, breathing, B, pulse, C, response, and D, pressure. He carried out some minor, he went closer, held her hand, feeling for her. The correct answer there is her pulse, because you check the pulse from the hand. He checked for her pulse and carried out some other minor. Now let's look at the options. A, experiments, B, probes, C, drills, D, checks. The correct option is checks. He checked her pulse and carried out some other minor. He took her pulse and checked out some other minor checks. After he had elicited one or two answers from the woman, the young doctor ordered, "Stretcher, stretcher, quickly take her to the dash." 77. A, the option there we have is theater, B, laboratory, C, clinic, D, casualty. A, theater, B, laboratory, C, clinic, and D, casualty. So the correct option there is stretcher. Is theater. Stretcher, stretcher, quickly take her to the theater. Even the dash, who had been supervising her treatment, were amazed. The options we have for number 78 there: A, orderliness, B, matrons, C, midwives, D, attendants. A, orderliness, B, matrons, C, midwives, D, attendants. So even the correct option to that space in 78 is midwives. Even the midwives who had been supervising her treatment were amazed. As the woman was being wheeled to the operating room, one of the nurses asked, "Are you sure, doctor, that she's for surgery?" The young doctor did not mince words. He said to her, "This is an ectopic pregnancy. No mistake about it." He said to her, "This is an ectopic pregnancy. No mistakes about it." The dash, that's 79, the dash must be taken out promptly. The option for that 79 space is A, baby, B, child, C, infant, D, fetus. A, baby, B, child, C, infant, D, fetus. The correct option is fetus. It is not a child yet because it's still in the womb. It's a fetus. The fetus must be taken out promptly. That was it. Within minutes, the operation began. While this was going on, blood was being prepared for dash. Before long, the surgery was complete. The dash we have in 80, the options we have for the dash in 80 are A, dripping, B, pumping, D, transfer, C, transfer, D, transfusion. A, dripping, B, pumping, C, transfer, D, transfusion. So the correct option for 80 is D, transfusion. While this was going on, blood was being prepared for transfusion. Before long, the surgery was complete. Now, to make the passage more interesting, we will just read through and with all those the correct options there, and we'll see how interesting that passage is. The young doctor looked sprightly in his white coat, displaying his stethoscope very conspicuously on his neck. He walked through the ward, greeting each of the patients who greeted him in return. Then suddenly, his eyes caught a woman on a nearby bed. He went closer, held her hand, feeling for her pulse, and he carried out some other minor checks. After he had elicited one or two answers from the woman, the young doctor ordered, "Stretcher, stretcher, quickly take her to the theater." Even the matrons who had been supervising her treatment were amazed. As the woman was being wheeled to the operating room, one of the nurses asked, "Are you sure that she is for surgery?" The young doctor did not mind words. He said to her, "This is an ectopic pregnancy. No mistake about it. The fetus must be taken out promptly." That was it. Within minutes, the operation began. While this was going on, blood was being prepared for transfusion. Before long, the surgery was complete. So that is section 6. We have been able to look at sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we are realize that each section, like I said before, has their own different instructions. So we have looked, that has not come to the end. That does not mean that's the end. Now, after having looked at all these things, you will now go over the video again for better clarification, practice with past questions, and then let's know through your feedback in the comment section. Please share, tell others about this video. I will see you in our next video, where we'll be talking about English essay paper 2. We are going to look at the 5 essay topics where questions will be picked from in our video. See you there. Thank you so much.